Hi, welcome to Business is Personal. I'm Dr. Corrie Block, and I am so excited. We have an amazing guest with us today. I'm really glad to welcome Mahmoud Gao, who is an innovator in fashion, which is probably something that I need a little bit of advice in, I'll be honest. I'm not quite sure about my own fashion, but Mahmoud has been transforming the fashion landscape of the UAE and now more recently KSA for at least a decade. He is the founder and CEO of Mr. Draper. Many of you have heard of that. You might not know that before that, he was with Accenture, he was a consultant, and eventually he started the company because he got laid off. And I know that for those of you who have experienced 2020, some of you are in exactly that same situation. So we want to have a conversation today with you. If you're thinking about starting a new business, let's talk about starting a new company. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Mahmoud.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate you coming.
It's a pleasure.
First of all, give us the 30-second clip on Mr. Draper, what you do and how you do it.
As you know, the shopping, e-commerce is taking a bigger share of the market.
Yeah.
A lot of people now more expecting a very personal, very convenient shopping experience. That's why traditional retail existed. You would go, you would talk to somebody, and they would understand who you are, what you like and what you don't, and recommend things for you. Now with us, spending a lot more time working, spending a lot more time exercising with our family and doing things we love, we don't have time to go to the mall anymore. So online shopping became a thing, and now it's taking again a bigger share of the market. Right. But with online shopping, it's difficult sometimes if you're somebody that doesn't know what you want to wear or have had issues in the past ordering things, and when it arrives it doesn't look like you expected online. Right. So we're trying to rebuild this entire experience. Right. Where you sign up to our service, you give us details about yourself, you help us understand what you like, what you don't, what you wear, colors, brands, budgets, and then you're assigned a personal stylist who works with you to personalize the shopping experience. She creates outfits for you, she sends it to your house, you try it on for 3 days, you keep what you like, you send back what you don't. It's a very convenient, frictionless shopping experience. The best part about it is we're using technology to personalize it. Yeah. Once you get a box, you tell us what you're keeping, what you're returning, why you're returning it, and then we continue personalizing that experience based off your feedback.
Amazing. Yeah. So I've taught about this too in artificial intelligence, that eventually we're going to take the wanting out of marketing. And you're just going to walk home, and Mr. Draper's box is going to be there in front of your door, and you're going to say, oh, I didn't really order anything. But you'll pick up the box, and there'll be a little letter inside saying, hey, you had a 97% chance of ordering one or more of these items within the next 4 or 5 days, so we took the liberty of sending them to you. And then you open it up, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, right? It's that kind of awe, I think, is what we're headed for. And so that's why I find your service offering to be really innovative.
We're not quite there yet, but what we're seeing happening is that customers are preferring to use this type of shopping experience just because they have a one-to-one communication channel with our stylist, who understands who they are, they understand their history, what they're liking, where they work, what type of events they go to, and we're able to personalize our packages and our outfits based off that. Amazing. So for a customer, really, after using the service a few times, really it's just clicking a button, all of a sudden 2 days later a box arrives that's customized, personalized to you, and you don't have to keep all of it, you only keep what you specifically need. And it's not a subscription. You only order it when you want, and if you want, you can tell your stylist, for example, send me a box every month or every 3 months. Wow. So it's a very customizable, frictionless, convenient, and personalized experience.
That's very cool. So tell us, so you started the company because you got laid off, right?
Yeah.
you got laid off from your job, you had no work, and then you're like, oh, let's just start a business. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so I worked for a startup, and I was the first hire. Yeah. And it was a company that was really innovating in HR and workforce analytics. Yeah. Unfortunately, the project didn't take off. They were a bit early, and I was let go from the job. Right. So I was let go in the period during Ramadan, which, as you know, is not a very busy period, not a lot going on in the Middle East. So I spent some time looking for jobs, but I also used the time to really explore working on something that I'm in love with. Right.
Is this your first startup?
This is my first startup.
No way, and it's going on for, how long has it been going on for?
5 years now.
5 years, goodness, that's amazing. Most startups die within the first 2 years, right? Like the vast majority, so.
I think, it's a combination of building something that people want. It's a combination of having the right team and the right board members and investors, and it's a combination of just pure perseverance and being able to manage cash. That's why we're still around.
So so we have entrepreneurs out there, you entrepreneurs, give them your one or two pieces of golden advice for people that are considering to start a new company rather than getting back into the job market?
Look, if you're going to build a company, there's no other way around it. It's going to be really challenging.
Yeah.
So if you're going to choose to start a startup, make sure you're choosing it in a space that you absolutely love and you're obsessed with, right? And it's a problem you're obsessed with fixing. Because it's become very challenging, and the only thing that's going to hold you up at the end of the day is your love or your passion for the industry or the startup.
That's right.
Second is to build the right team and have the right investors that are going to back you and believe in your vision no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Make sure you pick the right people that you surround yourself with, that when things get tough, they're going to always hold you up. And that's what I've been lucky enough to do.
That's fantastic. Like, I've started and exited 5 of my own companies, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And I tell entrepreneurs the same thing. Like, you have no idea how hard it's going to be. It's like, okay, so starting a new company is a bit like having a new baby. For the first 2 years, it's just screaming and crap, and you don't get any sleep, and you're always trying to save it from killing itself, and no one says thank you for any of your hard work, right? But then after a couple of years, maybe it has a bit of culture of its own, you know? It has once you get some people around, and then it has its own culture, and you can leave it alone for a week and it won't die.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But that's the challenge for entrepreneurs, and I think that challenge is not getting easier over time. I think that in the early 2000s, the number of VCs that came on board, that was helpful, so we could apply more fuel to the fire for entrepreneurs. So that's been really helpful.
In the region, it's becoming VC space is getting stronger, getting bigger. There's a lot more money being invested, but it's not. That should not be your.
It's no less stressful.
It's no less stressful. It should be your ultimate objective.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you need to build a business in a way that it can self-sustain itself. Should you not get funding, or should it take a bit longer? You're exactly right. I mean, building a company is like having a brand new baby. At first, it's crawling, and you're trying to get it upright, and then it's upright and starts barely walking, and it's tripping all over itself. I think the pandemic has really showed us, how resilient we can truly be starting a startup or being a startup during the pandemic.
I think you're really lucky to be in a startup during the pandemic. So here's the reason. What I see as a business strategist is that during a really, really big storm, you want to be in a really small ship or a really big ship. Okay, the big ships have enough momentum, they can deal with the wind and the waves and just keep going, right? Most of those big ships can manage. Really, really small ships, they'll just move with the waves, you can it's fine, you can navigate. So a really, really small company or a really, really big company is usually going to be okay during a storm like that. It's the medium-sized companies, those between, let's say, 30 and 300 that really suffered, the SMEs. Really took those major hits during the pandemic.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just because they have enough people on payroll that payroll is heavy,
Right.
And it's not something you can navigate for 5 or 6 months without significant amounts of income. And so those SMEs that were between 30 and 300, they really suffered. And then you have to let people go. And like you said, when you choose your team, because you have your entrepreneurial spirit, you have your entrepreneurial cap on, and you're choosing your team properly, and you get those people on board with you, when you get the right talent,
they're going to fight with you.
Yeah, and then you can't afford to keep them. And they've got bills to pay too. They've got kids to educate, and they've got parents to care for, and they've got mouths to feed, and they need to put fuel in the car. So when you're not able to provide that for them because the income's not coming in, because the market is dead, because we just got wiped out by a pandemic, if you've only got 5 employees, it's a little easier to carry. If you've got 5,000 employees, it's a little easier to carry because you have momentum and you have leverage. Right? But if you have that small company without momentum, without leverage, then they suffered a lot.
Yeah, depending on the industry, some industries definitely excelled during the pandemic. Like
how was fashion in general?
Fashion, 60% year over year decline. So really? People are not going out, they're not going to work, they're not going to the office. A lot of people spend time in t-shirts and sweatpants and sitting at home, right?
I did.
So, to be honest, so did I. But I mean, that's where personalization comes in. So we spent a lot of our time during the pandemic talking to our customers to figure out, how's everything? What are you guys going through? Are you working from home? Are you working from the office? Do you still have jobs? We got down and started talking to our customers. And we used it as an opportunity to try new things. Prior to the pandemic in 2019, we were we had explosive growth. We had triple-digit growth across the board.
Amazing.
And
are you getting back to that now?
We're getting back to that now.
Good.
We were fundraising on the back of that growth, and we were about to go to KSA in 2020. That was our big dream. That was our big goal.
Wow.
And then the pandemic happened. Everything fell apart.
Right.
So we said, okay, what are we going to do now?
Right.
We're going to bend down and cry? No.
Right.
So we started. First, we started talking to our customers. Right. We were starting to explore what other verticals. Where can we? What more problems can we solve for them? And we actually launched 3 services and products based on those conversations. 2 of them worked, 1 of them didn't. Fantastic.
Right.
You know, like we said, like we still at that stage where we can shift relatively quickly without making a big impact on the business.
Yeah, that's good.
And now we're coming out even stronger than we were before the pandemic.
Right. So your advice then, if you're an entrepreneur interested in fashion, now is a good time to start in.
Depends what type of fashion, right? Like,
well, I don't. Yeah, don't compete with Mr. Draper, obviously.
No, please do. We're building a market, and this is the first time, by the way, we have competitors, and that's what's so interesting about that industry, is that now we have competitors, and we're really excited about that. I mean, we don't know really, like we don't pay attention to a lot to what they're doing, but it's excited. It's exciting to know that the space is starting to take off because that's where the future of shopping is headed. Now, when it comes to fashion, what I was saying that is that it depends on what you're doing. If you're going to build something in fashion, be differentiated. Right? Don't come in and say, I'm going to sell socks and underwear online. I mean, it's not necessarily a great approach. But there is an interesting space that I think if you want to explore as fashion entrepreneurs is direct to consumer. So build a brand from the scratch up, straight from the manufacturer to the customer. I think that's an interesting space.
I see a lot of those popping up on my Instagram feed, actually.
Yeah, there's a few here that are they're becoming great. And one of the most successful in our region, and maybe now globally, is Huda Beauty. If you've heard of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a space definitely that people can explore.
Okay, so something that entrepreneurs really struggle with is knowing when to fail or how to fail. And I know like I said, I've started 5 successful companies, but I've also started and buried 2 unsuccessful companies. And that's a story I often don't tell. But what's your experience with failure and advice that you have for entrepreneurs?
Look, you should tell that story. I mean, that is something that's missing from the region, is that people are afraid to fail. Where if you look in the US and Europe, failure is celebrated because you come out of it a better entrepreneur, a better founder, and you can use that to build your next startup. Well,
ironically, my first failure, I won't even call it a failure. Actually, I believe that the 2 natural outcomes of let's say an undesired finish is either winning or learning. You either succeed or you learn. Failure is the choice to not learn from an undesired or unexpected outcome, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so my first company that I buried in its infancy, it was maybe a year and a half old, was actually a fashion company. And
how convenient.
I was, and the reason that it died was just because I was ridiculously arrogant. I was absolutely arrogant. I thought, because I had started a couple of successful companies, I thought everything I touched would turn to gold.
Right.
And so I had this kind of Midas illusion about myself. And so I was like, let's start a fashion brand. So I created logos and hoodies, and I was into skate gear. So I created a skater brand for, it was terrible.
I think you were ahead of your time. That would have been amazing. When did you do this?
This was 2002, 2003.
You're way ahead of your time. This is hot right now.
I know. So I hit that lull, right? It was hot in the 90s, and then it hit the lull in the 2000s, and that's when I entered when the market was dead. And now it's back, and it's like, I missed my window.
No, not necessarily.
Oh.
That's
anyway.
direct to consumer you should launch. So again, failure, honestly, should be celebrated. I'm saying that from experience. In 2017, I was 3 months away from running out of cash. I had a baby on the way, our first baby.
Wow, mashallah.
And I was talking to investors, but nothing was really taking.
Right.
So what I spent a lot of time doing, and I'm sure you guys are going through this too, is that I spent a lot of time moping. Like, what am I going to do? I was struggling to get out of bed.
It's
and
true.
this is a real problem. It's not something...
100%. I had exactly the same days. Exactly the same,
So I struggled to get out of bed. I spent a lot of time thinking about what's going to happen when I fail.
Yep.
And then one day I was driving and the switch flipped. I said, okay, what is going to happen when I fail? So I took that failure head on. And I realized that I have, at that point in time, 2 years of startup experience. I built a team.
Right.
I built $1 million business.
Yeah.
I built relationships, understood finances, cap tables, investments, business in general.
Right.
And I said, now my value in the market is going to be 5 to 10x what it was before I started to start.
Right.
That's my worst case scenario. And once I realized that, like the space in my head cleared up. It wasn't focused on all the negatives. It was focused on, if I'm going to fail, I'm going to go all out to try to make it a success. And if I fail, fine.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And I ended up finding a solution to the problem we were in. Like, we needed clothes at the time and we didn't have cash to buy it, so I worked out deals with suppliers to do consignment, for example. That opened the door to get funding.
Right.
And once funding, and then the story changed, right?
Yep.
So it's really just about thinking about what is your worst case scenario. Taking that scenario head on.
Yeah, and it's not that bad. I mean, the worst case scenario is not that bad. Okay,
the worst case scenario is you learned.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your worst case scenario.
Exactly. It was the same for me. Yeah. I, moped around for a few days, and I was like, I was bummed, but I was more embarrassed, right? Because it was like, it was something that I was passionate about, but I just really wasn't brilliant in, and I didn't do my homework, and but I learned all of that. But I had all of the expertise I needed to do it right the next time. And I did it right the next time.
And you built successful companies before that and
after that. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and what about funding? Okay, so a lot of entrepreneurs ask me about, connect me with VCs, connect me with funders, connect me with investors, and I'm like, okay, because I get at least 3 or 5 of these in my inbox and LinkedIn every week, 3 to 5 requests from entrepreneurs, connect me with funders. So what's your advice for entrepreneurs when they're looking for VCs or investors?
I wouldn't call myself a specialist by any means, right? But I've been doing it for a long time, and I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is, speak to people that are interested in your space. Right now, fintech is hot.
Yep.
Education is hot. So if you're doing something outside of that, an industry outside of that, make sure you find those investors, whether angels or VCs, that are interested in your space, right? Because that makes the conversation a lot more streamlined. Right. They're interested in your space. They know the ins and outs of your industry. They can give advice, and they understand your numbers and where you're coming from, right? So that's one bit of advice. And even if they don't end up giving you funds, build your relationship with them. Stay in touch.
Yeah, very good.
So in the future, once you hit a stage where it's a space that they're interested in, or that you're at a size that they're interested in, you can open that door easily. So don't make it a one-off transaction.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I'll add this. There's lots of money out there. Don't chase the money, chase the investor. So we're almost out of time. One last question. Sure. Since I have the amazing Mr. Draper right in front of me now, any fashion advice?
You're putting me on the spot here. Well, the cameras can't see your shoes, but
my shoes are something.
Talk about that a bit.
My shoes are something of controversy.
I think you've got a fantastic suit. It's a very traditional look.
Yeah,
right?
That's
so
true.
It depends what you're going for. If you want to spice that up a bit, I think a scarf with the whole suit would look super nice, or just have a simple pocket square.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. It's been really, really good to see you.
You as well.
I look forward to hanging out with you outside of the podcast.
Let's do it.
Yeah. In the meantime, go and start your business. This is a really good time.